This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts. Tammy Watchorn, welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
It is a real pleasure to have you with me today. You're joining us from across the pond over in Scotland. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah, and today we're going to be talking about Change Ninja and your recent book and really what it means to become a change ninja and how we can foster kind of a change agility kind of mindset and approach within our teams and within our organizations. As we get started, I wanted to share Tammy's bio with everybody. Tammy Watchorn is an experienced change management specialist who honed her expertise through years in public sector, where she navigated complex organizational challenges. After encountering numerous obstacles to innovation, she developed a strategic approach to change management that she calls the Change Ninja methodology, focusing on subtle, effective techniques that eliminate barriers and resistance. As the author of the Change Ninja Handbook, Tammy offers a unique gamified approach to change management, helping professionals overcome workplace resistance through practical, often humorous strategies. I could go on, but I'm going to pause there. Tammy, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Not really, other than, I've got the scars, the t-shirt, I made the mistakes, so you don't have to, which is captured in both of the books. So
yeah, absolutely. There's just so much to be learned through doing, and you have the bruises to show for it, and there's always the ups and the downs, and resilience is, I think, the name of the game, and in change management, it definitely is. We live in a challenging time of just increased, almost exponential complexity, all sorts of challenges that people are facing in their personal lives, in their communities, in their organizations. We have geopolitical, socioeconomic disruption, technological disruption. All these things just lead to the need for us to become change ninjas, to be agile, and to be, really just effective in how we approach change management. Change management of a previous generation isn't going to do it for today's organization. So I'm excited to unpack this with you. So why don't you start by just sharing your perspective on why this book, why now? Why did you write this book? And then we can get more into what it means to be a change ninja.
Yeah, so as I say, I got the t-shirt, the scars, I made the mistakes, and I had an awful lot of really funny stories. I thought they were funny stories around trying to lead change, and mostly at my expense, me getting it wrong.
Funny now to look back on, but maybe not funny at the time.
Not funny at the time. And I didn't know what to do with them. There are so many books out there. Who's got time to read books anymore? But most of the books on change are theoretical. They're written by, the Cotter books. They're great, but he wrote them somewhere in an ivory tower. He's not worked in a big industry full of people who just keep saying no. So those books are good for learning, but implementing them really hard. Time for reading, it's a bit of a challenge. So I turned the stories into a choose your own adventure book. I don't know if you remember choose your own adventure stories, but you get to make the decisions. So, here's a tale. Your boss has just asked you to do this. What are you going to do next? So you get to decide what happens next. And with each outcome, there's some learning. There's a right way and possibly a less right way, but you'll learn from that because you'll recognize that that's what you would do. So not only is it kind of quite light-hearted, story-based, gamified, but you'll get real learning from using the tools because it'll be a scenario that you will already be familiar with. And when you kind of apply that insight to your real world, you're much more likely to do something different the next day. So it has almost an instant impact. And because of the way it's written, you can read it, over a weekend. It's quite fun to read. It's not drowning in theory and references and all of that. So, and it seems to have just had a huge impact because of that, because it is more human. And the whole ninja approach is about being more human and approaching people as human beings and not as widgets in a machine to get some change done. So it seems to work.
Well, I love the approach. I love the gamified story-based approach because, like you said, there's not a shortage of theoretical change management books out there, framework-based books out there. Really great books, by the way. Like in
Yeah.
great frameworks, great approaches. Yeah, where the rubber meets the road, that's where it really matters. And we all know, anyone who's actually done change management within organizations, we all know that the ideal almost never happens. And
Mm.
you don't have buy-in from top leadership the way you want. You have resistance down the pipeline. You have organizational politics that get in the way. You have breakdowns in communication strategies. Like you have all these different things that erode trust, that erode the effectiveness of the change. And it's an art and a science. To be
Yeah.
able to be effective at it, and that's the challenge with the theoretical or even the framework based approaches, like a ProSci or whatever. I love ProSci. I love their approach to change management. But the on the other hand, the reality is you almost never get the chance to navigate change in that way, in that systematic way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because yeah, humans are messy.
humans.
Yeah.
We're human. We're human. And because of that, it just introduces all these different variables that you can't plan to account for, in
Yeah.
advance. The more scars you have, the more experience you have, you start to see, those types of things, and you can try to plan and strategize around them a bit. But you also just have to be in the moment. You have to be present. And you have to
Yeah.
be agile with it, and you can't just assume, if I follow this playbook that I have followed at the last five organizations, it's going to work the same way. I hate to break it to you, but it's probably not
It's
going to
not.
work the same way.
It's not. And that, so my whole approach is that being prepared and understanding all of that before you start. I don't know. Do you know the game Whack-A-Mole
Yeah,
that you get in the
absolutely.
fairgrounds? When I do the training, I say it's like Whack-A-Mole. It's not about when do I apply this and what order do I apply it. It's about being ready to whack the moles that are the blockers and the resistors and the complainers, and just be ready to approach them in a very different way when they pop up. So you can persuade them and get them on board really, really quickly and shift their thinking towards the change really, really quickly without the battles. And that's why it's ninja, because they don't notice you're doing it. And there is no grand plan, there is no framework, there is no playbook to follow. But it is, I hate the term having a toolkit, but it is like having, okay, these are the 10 scenarios that I could face. And typically there's only 10 types of reactions people will have. I say there's 10 types of people in change, and we're all of them some of the time. But
Mhm.
if you know how to deal with each of those 10 personas, you can do anything. And it works at home as well as, you can deal with the kids and the hubby or the wife and all of that because it is all there's only so many ways people will react to something, and you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
nip it if you know how to deal with it, then you can shift it really quickly before it escalates.
Yeah, and we're not talking manipulation. We're just talking
No.
proactive human to human interaction, right? Like just how to be effective in your communication, in your interpersonal dynamics, and
Yeah.
how to redirect things when they start to derail, right? Because
Yeah.
we've all been
Yeah.
there. And you mentioned like whether it's with a spouse or a kid, or whether it's at work with a boss or with someone who reports to you. Like we've all been there. We've all seen those things happen, and just being able to approach them in a healthy, human way is just really important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And I always
let's go.
say,
Oh, go ahead.
so I would just say it starts with you. So it's not about manipulating them. It's about you understanding that they are coming at this from that angle for a reason, and understanding that. So you've kind of got a bit of empathy with it, which again, it's not manipulating them to change, but it's once you have that understanding, your reaction and response to them will shift. And
Yeah.
that can really help them shift because you're not going into battle. You're not reacting to their reaction. So it does start with you kind of understanding yourself a little bit more and how you can shift first.
Yeah, you show
Mm.
up differently to those
Yeah,
conversations. And people, if you show up combative, other people are going to be combative. Their walls are going to go up. So de-escalation and like managing all that is really important. Well, great.
yeah.
Let's go through those personas, if you don't mind. I'd love to talk through that a little bit. We don't need to necessarily go through all of them, but maybe select some examples and we can talk through it.
So I think first you've got your big cheese, your boss, who makes decisions regardless.
Hmm.
So how do you, a lot of people think managing change is managing down the way. Quite often you have to manage up the way.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
how do you manage your interactions with your boss? Because we quite often don't think of them as being human beings because they earn more
But they
money than us and make decisions. But they've got stuff going on at home and, you don't know what they're going through. So thinking about how will you approach them differently to
are.
get what you need from them? And I think we find it easier to go, to complain about the boss, but actually, how do we shift so that we're delivering what they need in a way that suits us? So I think that's a relationship. There's probably in every organization, there are some senior decision makers who don't make decisions.
Hmm.
They've got there, they don't want to rock the boat, they don't actually want to do anything. So how do you get them making the decisions that you need, but them thinking it was their decision to make?
Hmm.
And I think again, another managing up the way, but they will absolutely block, the big IT guy, the finance lady, all the people that are holding the purse strings and the decisions on whether your change goes ahead or not. If you can get them to think that what you're doing was their idea, they're going to be behind it and become advocates. So how do you make sure you manage that relationship?
Yeah,
There's the
that's a really interesting element because when you're dealing with blockers, in senior leadership positions, who are they're the ones that are going to sign off ultimately or not.
Yeah,
They hold a lot of control and a lot of power, and yeah, there's a lot of people, whether it's personality driven, whether it's like just cautionary, whether uh, they're risk averse in their new position, whatever the reason. Like there's a whole bunch of reasons why people in those positions sometimes just stall or derail things that
yeah,
even they may even know are probably going to be pretty good for the organization, but they don't want to be on the hook for the decision if it goes poorly, and so
yeah,
things don't happen. And in that environment, being able to ask the right questions, kind of guide them towards the answer in a way,
yeah,
like you said, where they
yeah,
feel ownership, not only ownership, but like even, give them the credit, like let them take
yeah,
credit for it,
absolutely.
pat their ego, let them take credit for it, let them feel like it's something that they've decided and are driving. And that's okay
Yeah,
because anytime you're able to do that, you're able to start to move things forward,
yeah.
and that is a skill, that is a talent, and very much an art of persuasion, around that.
Yeah, it is. But again, it starts with you because you need to accept that they may take the credit. And
Yes, and they probably
that can be
will.
really hard.
They
But
probably will. Yeah.
they will. But if your change is the right change and you want it to happen, so again, it's kind of starting with you knowing that you might need to let that go, knowing that you might need to have conversations with people you really don't like very much or respect. But they're blocking it because they either just want an easy life and they'll say yes without doing the thing and then they'll run away, or they think, they've got the ego, they've been there, they've done that, they're not interested in the change. So trying to understand that, those blockers can form two or three different personas. So what is it? And sometimes it's fear. Again, they're at a senior part of their growth in the organization. They've perhaps got a few years left. They don't want to rock the boat with anything new and fancy. So you need to get them thinking this is going to be their legacy rather than this is going to
Hmm.
be potentially the thing they leave with tail between the legs. So it's understand. So you have to really get inside their minds to know how to approach them because there'll be multiple reasons why they're blocking.
Well, and that
I
comes
think you've
back to your.
then got the general fear.
Yeah. Oh, if I can just comment real
Sorry.
quick, that comes back to what you were saying earlier about the empathy, right? And as you seek first to
Yeah,
understand yourself and then to understand others, you can approach them with empathy and just to understand what is really driving their decision making, their behavior. That's empathy. That you may
yeah,
not agree with it, but at least you understand it and you understand where they're coming from. And
Yeah.
it's frustrating when someone
Yeah.
is putting up roadblocks to something that's going to help everybody, that is going to work if they can buy in, and you get frustrated by that. And then it's really easy, because we're human, to start to assign blame, and to start to like assign motives, and like say, oh, this person is lazy, their ego is huge, and you start to come up with this whole narrative, some of it which may be true, but it's not helpful. Like ultimately, what we need to be able to do is kind of take that out of it, and just really seek to understand they're human. They have
Yeah.
things pulling them in
Yeah.
different directions, just like we do. And it's not nefarious. Usually it's not them waking up in the morning thinking, how am I going to derail John today and make his life horrible and miserable? I
Yes.
suppose that
Yeah.
could happen, but most of the time that's not what's going on at all, right? And so just trying to really understand
Yeah.
where they're coming from and having that empathy is really just key. Yeah.
It
And
is,
sorry, you were
and
about to move on to,
and there's two other points in there. I think.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I'll add to this because I think there's two. You raised two important points. So they might have the ego. They might be whatever they are. The more you talk about that, the more that becomes real in your head, who that person is. So you're creating that persona yourself through
Hmm.
how you're naming them, talking about them, and that will come across in your dealings with them in a
Yeah.
subconscious way. But they'll pick up what
Yeah.
you think about them. So that's raising their response to you. So if you can let that go and you're just, they're a human being with stuff going on and you need them on board, then you start to shift that dynamic. And it's very, you're not really aware of it, but our subconscious picks up all of those cues. So there's that. And the second thing is, if it does kind of make you think, I really don't want to do this because they don't deserve the credit, is think of it as a game. If I can get those two really, really difficult people advocating this change, I've won an award. You have to create the game for yourself, because then
Yeah.
it becomes a bit like sport, but you're much more willing then to not attach the personal bit to it and to treat this as, if I can do this, I'm a real ninja. And it just shifts your response because it takes the emotion out of it for you. And when you remove the emotion, you respond much more logically, which is what you want to do, rather than with the frustration and the anger and all of the things that are emotional responses. So it's a shift in your own mindset on those two fronts, and it gets much easier and becomes much more fun.
Yeah, and to be clear, like yes, we're all going to have those emotional responses, and they're valid. Like it's valid to feel that way, but it's not necessarily going to be helpful in you getting to where you
Yeah.
want to be. And so just having emotional regulation to be able to deal with those, to recognize them as they're showing up for you, because we're all human, we're going to have them, right? So just being able to like talk yourself through that and saying, okay, this is showing up for me, this is what I'm feeling, this is what how I'm perceiving this situation. Talk yourself through it, kind of take a step back, and then you're in a much healthier space to
Yeah.
to be able to move
Yeah.
forward in a productive way.
Yeah. And the more you can do that, the less emotional response you will have. And emotion burns your time and energy and, makes you ill. So why would you want to spend and waste that on these people? You don't.
Yeah, that's a great
So,
point.
save it for the stuff that
don't
actually
don't let them live in
matters.
your head rent free, right? Like
Yeah, exactly. Because they're not thinking about you when they go home.
yeah, that's a great reminder. That's funny because it's really easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah,
Good. What
yeah.
what are some of the other major personas?
So I think the probably the biggest one, once you've got over those above you, is just general fear
Yeah.
everywhere, because we are bombarded daily with bad news. We've
Mhm.
never come out of the COVID thing thinking life's great.
Mm.
It's just got, it's just one thing after another. You can't escape it, however much you try. I live in a very remote spot of the world and I've shut off as much as possible, but it's still there. There's still this ongoing fear and finance and whatever it is, even within your. So you've got all of that. You've then got AI come in and no one knows what it's going to do. And there's the threat of job security, and it's already having an impact in the UK. And I don't think it's actually real yet in terms of a solution, but it's being used as an excuse to reduce the workforce. So
Mhm.
there are a lot less jobs in the kind of change project, all of that world. It's having a real impact. So you've got that on top of cost of living crisis. And then you come along with this change project and no one's got space for it. And we're all in this reactive mode all of the time because of the general stress that at least the West is under from this ongoing fear response. And, you've got your politics in the States, and I'm sure that's creating a lot of that sort of angst.
Hmm.
So when you go along with a change, people are just going to react in a negative way because they can't cope with it and they're reacting emotionally and not logically because they're already in a heightened sense of stress. And you don't notice it because it's the norm, but it's there all the time. I don't know if you ever go on holiday and get sick. If you take a vacation and you just get sick straight away, that's because your immune system's stressed all the time. And very simplistically, you go on holiday, it takes a break, you catch a bug. If
Yeah.
you're not stressed all the time, you don't get sick when you go on leave. And if you're not stressed all the time, you don't even need the leave because you're not stressed. So we're in this kind of cycle, and any change which brings potential uncertainty, the brain's going to react in, that's not good for me. There's enough going on already. I can't cope with anything else. So dealing with that, if you launch a change and you go out with this great project that's going to deliver all of these benefits, nobody's listening, they're just reacting emotionally. So you need to think about that before you go anywhere near an announcement. You need to think how it's going to be perceived by all the different groups of people. How is it going to fix a problem that they have that means they'll want to do the change?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, kitting out people with the ability to be able to do a little bit of that for themselves, I think would be amazing. If people knew how to do the self-regulation thing and shift their thinking, you've got a good start. But we don't do that in organizations because people don't spend money on human stuff. It doesn't sound as good as AI, does it? But thinking about all of that before you even go anywhere near announcing anything will help you deal with that because you are just going to face, and people will say the right things or they'll put the fingers in their ears, but you won't see them for dust when it comes to it. And you're adding to the stress levels. So you increase in the risk of people being off sick, mental health issues, down in tools, product, all of that stuff that the change is meant to improve. You wouldn't possibly don't need that if you actually approach people better about change.
Mhm.
That's my kind of mission for next year because it is so much, so needed, and so much is overlooked in that area. And it doesn't need to be a huge job to deliver that into organizations. But it's not a metric you can really measure because it's how people feel. So,
Yeah, yeah. No, this is great stuff, and I think I absolutely agree with your approach and your philosophy, and I think we can make change management into this really complicated. It is an art and a science, and there's lots of research behind it, and there are great frameworks, and there's all these different things. But we can, in the reality where the rubber meets the road, I don't think it's rocket science,
no,
but it is really hard. But it comes down to some very, with all the frameworks and all the different things, like it really comes down to some very basic elements of just understanding human behavior and
yeah,
relationships and building
yeah,
trust, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you can do those basic things and do them consistently, you're not going to be perfect, but you're going to be like 80%, 90% ahead of the game, just by doing those things.
Yeah, and if you're given the space to do those things, you will deliver the change much more quickly. It'll
Hmm.
cost less to do it. You'll have people on board with it from day one. So once you put something in, a new system in, people will want to use it because they were behind it from the start. So it's I don't know if you know the tortoise and the hare story, the race that we used to get told
Hmm.
as a kid. It's like you need to be the tortoise. You
Yeah.
need, don't run off writing your documents and your comms plans and your big engagement pieces until you've done all of that thinking about how you're going to approach it from everybody's perspective and
Yeah.
how you're going to pitch it from everybody's perspective. Because again, standing up and saying the benefits of this are X, nobody's listening. They're not engaged. And the more you do it, the more they're going to just stick their fingers in their ears and run away because they can't see why you're doing it for them. There is no benefit for them personally.
Yeah. Well, Tammy, this has just been such a great conversation. I know at the time I need to let you go here in a minute, but as we wrap up, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, where they can find your book, and then give us the final word for today.
Yep, so easy to find my books on Amazon everywhere. On LinkedIn, there's only one of me in the world. It's a strange name. Or the website www.change-ninja.com. I've got training programs. I've got two books out and a third one coming out next year, which is all about zombies. So I'm quite excited to be writing that
Nice.
one.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Tammy can do for you. Check out the books. Look forward to the zombie book. That one's going to be awesome. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.